Sometimes one wrong decision doesn't ruin your life. It introduces you to the person who was always meant to change it. I didn't know that on the night everything began. I was standing in the employee entrance of the Grand Astoria Hotel, trying to catch my breath while cold rain tapped against the glass doors behind me. My shift had ended 3 hours earlier at a coffee shop in Queens. My feet ached. My shoulders ached. Even my smile felt tired. Then my phone rang. It was Vanessa, one of the event coordinators I occasionally worked for. Her voice sounded desperate. "Callie, please tell me you're available." I checked the time. It was almost 7 o'clock. "Depends," I said. "How desperate are you?" She laughed nervously. "Very." One of my servers called out. "We have a charity gala tonight. Double pay. Double pay." Those two words always hit differently when tuition bills were waiting on your kitchen counter. I stared at my reflection in a dark window. 24 years old. Nursing student. 3 jobs. One apartment that seemed to get smaller every month. "Send me the address," I said. 40 minutes later, I stepped into a world that didn't feel real. Crystal chandeliers hung above marble floors. Men wore watches worth more than my car. Women floated through the ballroom wearing designer gowns that probably cost more than a year's rent. Everything sparkled. Everything looked perfect. I adjusted my black serving uniform and picked up a silver tray of champagne glasses. The music was soft. The conversations were softer. But beneath the elegance, something felt strange. Like everyone was smiling while hiding something. Maybe that was just wealth. I spent the first hour moving through the crowd unnoticed. Which was fine. Invisible people made fewer mistakes. Invisible people kept their jobs. Invisible people paid their bills. Then the doors opened. The room changed instantly. It wasn't loud. No one announced him. No spotlight appeared. Yet somehow every conversation shifted. Every head turned. Every eye followed him. Damian Moretti had arrived. I didn't know much about him. Just enough to recognize the name. Business magazines called him a real estate genius. News articles called him a billionaire investor. Rumors called him something else entirely. Whatever the truth was, power followed him like a shadow. He walked through the ballroom surrounded by quiet men in dark suits. Not bodyguards exactly. More like people who had forgotten how to lose. Damian looked younger than I expected. Early 30s maybe. Dark hair. Sharp features. The kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. But his eyes were different. Calm. Focused. Watching everything. Missing nothing. I lowered my gaze immediately and continued serving drinks. Men like him lived in another universe. People like me weren't supposed to exist in their orbit. 20 minutes later, I was carrying fresh champagne toward a private section near the ballroom terrace when I noticed something unusual. 2 men stood near the doors speaking in hushed voices. One of them looked nervous. The other kept checking the room. I wasn't trying to listen. I really wasn't. But I caught a few words. Warehouse. Delivery. Tomorrow night. Then one of them glanced in my direction. My stomach tightened. I looked away quickly and continued walking. That's when it happened. A guest stepped backward without looking. My shoulder clipped his arm. The tray tilted. Crystal glasses rattled. My heart stopped. Somehow I caught the tray before disaster struck. A few drops spilled onto the marble floor. Nothing broke. Nobody seemed to notice. Nobody except him. I looked up. Across the crowded ballroom, Damian Moretti was staring directly at me. Not at the tray. Not at the spill. At me. And for reasons I couldn't explain, every instinct I had suddenly whispered the same warning. Run. Every instinct told me to look away. Instead, I kept staring. Damian Moretti stood across the ballroom, surrounded by people who seemed to orbit around him without realizing it. His attention never shifted. Not once. It felt impossible. There were senators in this room. Celebrity donors. Billionaires. Women who looked like they belonged on magazine covers. Yet somehow his eyes remained fixed on a nursing student carrying a tray of champagne. I lowered my head and moved toward the service station near the kitchen entrance. My pulse refused to slow down. Callie. Vanessa suddenly appeared beside me. Her face looked pale. What happened? I asked. She glanced over her shoulder. Please tell me you did not speak to anyone near the terrace. My stomach tightened. No, did you hear anything? A few random words. Nothing important. Vanessa exhaled slowly. Good. That answer should have comforted me. Instead, it made me more nervous. I set the tray down and reached for a bottle of sparkling water. My hands were trembling slightly. Across the ballroom, the orchestra shifted into a softer piece. The chandeliers cast golden reflections across the marble floor. Everything looked elegant. Everything felt wrong. Then I noticed movement. One of the men standing near Damien stepped away from the group. He said something quietly. Damien did not respond immediately. His gaze remained locked in my direction. Finally, he gave a subtle nod. The man started walking toward me. My heart dropped. "Callie," Vanessa whispered. "Why is Victor coming over here?" "Who is Victor?" "One of Damien's executives." That word felt carefully chosen. Executive. Not bodyguard. Not security. Executive. The man approached with calm confidence. He looked to be in his 40s. Expensive suit. Silver watch. The kind of smile that never revealed what someone was thinking. "Miss Hart," he asked. I froze. "Yes." "Mr. Moretti would like a moment of your time." My stomach immediately rejected the idea. "I think there must be some mistake." "There is no mistake. I am working." His smile widened slightly. "Mr. Moretti is aware of that." "Then tell him thank you. But I should stay here." For the first time, Victor looked surprised. Almost amused. "You are declining?" "Yes." He blinked once. "Nobody declines." "Well, now somebody has." A second passed. Then another. Finally, he nodded politely. "I will let him know." I expected him to argue. He did not. He simply turned and walked away. The moment he reached Damien, several people nearby seemed to stop talking. I watched Victor lean close and say something. Damien listened without changing expression. Then something unexpected happened. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Not a smile. Not quite. More like curiosity. My skin prickled. "What did you just do?" Vanessa asked. "Apparently something stupid." "Do you know who that man is?" "Everyone keeps asking me that." "Because everybody knows." I grabbed another tray and escaped before she could continue. For the next 30 minutes I stayed busy. Refilling drinks. Collecting empty glasses. Avoiding every possible line of sight. Eventually I convinced myself the strange moment had passed. Then I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me." I turned. A woman stood there wearing a navy evening gown. She looked elegant and composed. Probably early 60s. There was something kind about her eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked. She smiled warmly. "You remind me of someone." "Someone good, I hope." "Very much so." Her gaze lingered on my face. Not in a rude way. More like she was trying to remember something. "Have we met before?" I asked. "No," she said softly. "But perhaps someone else has." Before I could ask what she meant, her attention shifted behind me. The smile vanished. A strange tension entered her expression. I turned instinctively. Damien was walking across the ballroom. Not toward a business partner. Not toward a donor. Toward me. The conversations around us seemed to fade. Guests stepped aside without being asked. The distance between us disappeared one measured step at a time. Then he stopped less than 6 feet away. Up close, he looked even more intimidating. Not because of his size, because of the stillness. Like a man who never wasted energy, never wasted words. His eyes studied my face carefully, almost searching for something. Something he could not quite believe. Neither of us spoke. The silence stretched. Then he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket. Slowly, deliberately, he removed an old photograph. My breath caught. The woman beside me suddenly looked shocked. Damien stared at the photograph, then at me, then back at the photograph. And for the first time that evening, I saw a genuine emotion break through his calm expression. "That is impossible," he whispered. The ballroom seemed to disappear around me. I stared at the photograph in Damien's hand. He stared at me. Neither of us moved. Neither of us seemed capable of it. The woman beside me slowly lowered her champagne glass. Her eyes shifted between my face and the faded photograph. "Damien," she said quietly. "What is it?" He did not answer immediately. His attention remained fixed on me. The photograph looked old. The edges were worn. The colors had faded with time. Yet even from several feet away, I could tell why he looked unsettled. The woman in the picture looked familiar. Not a little familiar. Uncomfortably familiar. My throat tightened. "Who is that?" I asked. Damien glanced at the photograph again. "That is what I am trying to understand." His voice sounded different now. Less controlled. More human. The woman beside me stepped closer. "May I see it?" He handed her the photograph without hesitation. Her eyes widened almost instantly. Then she looked directly at me. Good Lord. My stomach dropped. "What?" She turned the photograph toward me. The air left my lungs. A young woman smiled back from the image. Blonde hair. Green eyes. A warm expression. She could have been my older sister. Or my mother. My hands trembled slightly. I do not understand. Neither did Damien. I could see it in his eyes. He looked like a man who had spent years believing something certain. Then suddenly nothing felt certain anymore. Who is she? I asked again. The woman answered this time. Her name was Caroline Hayes. The name meant nothing to me. I waited for a memory. Nothing came. I have never heard of her. Damien studied my face carefully, almost like he was measuring every reaction, every blink, every breath. Are you sure? Yes. Absolutely sure. I would remember. Silence settled between us. Around us, the gala continued. Music played softly. Conversations resumed. Yet it felt as if our small corner of the ballroom existed outside of time. The woman handed the photograph back. This is impossible, she whispered. Damien finally looked away from me. Only for a second. Then his attention returned immediately. What is your mother's name? The question caught me off guard. Linda Hart. Your biological mother? I froze. Very few people knew I was adopted. No, his expression sharpened instantly. You were adopted. How do you know that? Answer the question. Normally, I would have hated the tone. Tonight, I barely noticed it. Yes, I admitted. I was adopted when I was 4. Something shifted behind Damien's eyes. Not satisfaction. Not relief. Something closer to confirmation. The woman beside him looked stunned. Damien. He raised a hand gently. She fell silent. Do you know anything about your biological family? He asked. Very little. Names? No photographs. None. Records? Only sealed adoption documents. He exhaled slowly. For the first time all evening, uncertainty appeared in his face. The sight felt strangely unsettling. Men like Damien Moretti were not supposed to look uncertain. Suddenly a voice interrupted us. Mr. Moretti. One of the suited men had returned. His expression remained calm, but tension hid beneath it. Damien turned slightly. What is it? There is a problem. The man lowered his voice. Outside. Damien listened carefully. His expression darkened. Not with anger. With concern. Real concern. His gaze immediately returned to me. Have you noticed anyone following you recently? The question sounded so unexpected that I almost laughed. Following me? Answer honestly. No, think carefully. I did. Classes. Work. Grocery store. Apartment. Nothing unusual came to mind. No, Damien looked unconvinced. The suited man leaned closer. The vehicle is still there. A chill ran through me. What vehicle? Neither man answered immediately. That silence frightened me more than any explanation could have. The orchestra began another song. Somewhere across the ballroom, people laughed. Glasses clinked. Yet every instinct inside me suddenly felt alert, like an invisible wire had tightened. Damien slipped the photograph back into his jacket. The gala is over for you. I blinked. Excuse me. You are leaving. No, his eyes narrowed slightly. No, I do not even know you. That is exactly the problem. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the woman beside us quietly whispered something that made my blood run cold. Damien, if she really is connected to Caroline. She never finished the sentence. She did not need to. Because for the first time all evening, Damien Moretti looked genuinely afraid of what might happen next. There is a difference between danger and fear. Danger is something you see. Fear is something you feel before you understand why. Standing in that ballroom, surrounded by wealth and music and polished smiles, I felt fear. Not because of Damien Moretti, because of the look in his eyes. He was not afraid for himself. He was afraid for me. And that made no sense at all. I am going home, I said firmly. Damien held my gaze. No, you do not get to decide that. Tonight I do. I am not one of your employees. I know. Then stop acting like you own my schedule. A faint flicker of amusement crossed his face. It disappeared almost instantly. Miss Hart, this is not a negotiation. Good. Because I am not participating. The woman beside him looked concerned. Callie, perhaps you should listen. With respect, I do not know any of you. My voice came out sharper than intended. An hour ago I was serving drinks. Now people are showing me photographs and asking questions about my adoption. I shook my head. I am done. I turned and started walking. Every nerve in my body expected someone to stop me. Nobody did. That somehow made me more nervous. I crossed the ballroom quickly, past the orchestra, past the donor tables, past the marble columns glowing beneath golden light. Behind me, I heard no footsteps, no voices, no orders. The silence followed me all the way to the employee corridor. I grabbed my coat from the staff room and headed toward the parking garage entrance. Rain still tapped softly against the building. Midnight had arrived without me noticing. The city beyond the glass looked blurred and silver. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Are you okay?" I stared at the screen. I was not sure how to answer. Before I could reply, another message appeared. Unknown number. 3 words. "Do not leave alone." My stomach dropped. I stopped walking immediately. The message vanished from the lock screen as quickly as it appeared. I opened my phone. Nothing. No notification. No sender. No record. For a moment, I wondered if exhaustion was finally catching up to me. Then the elevator doors opened behind me. I turned. Victor stepped out. The silver-haired executive looked surprisingly relieved. "There you are. Why are you following me?" "I am not." "Then this is an incredible coincidence." He almost smiled. "Mr. Moretti asked me to make sure you reached your car safely." "I can reach my car." "I am sure you can." "Then tell him thank you and goodbye." Victor glanced toward the garage entrance. His expression changed slightly. "Would you mind waiting 5 minutes?" "Yes." 3 minutes. "No, 2. "Absolutely not." He sighed softly. "You are making this difficult." "I am making what difficult?" Before he could answer, another elevator opened. 2 men stepped out wearing dark jackets. Nothing unusual about that. Except both immediately looked away when they noticed us. They continued walking toward the exit. Victor watched them carefully. Too carefully. The back of my neck prickled. "Do you know them?" I asked. "No, then why are you staring?" He did not answer. One of the men paused near the glass doors. He appeared to be speaking into a phone. The other stood beside him, waiting, watching. My heartbeat quickened. "What is going on?" Victor finally looked at me. "That is exactly what we are trying to determine." A cold sensation moved through my chest. Outside, headlights reflected across the wet pavement. A black SUV sat across the street. Its engine running. Its lights off. The vehicle looked familiar. Not because I had seen it before. Because it looked exactly like the type of vehicle people noticed in movies right before something important happened. "That car has been there 20 minutes, Victor said quietly. "How do you know?" "Because we have been watching it." I stared through the rain-streaked glass. The SUV remained motionless. The men near the exit remained motionless. Everything suddenly felt connected. "Victor." "Yes." "Tell me the truth." He hesitated. That was answer enough. "Does this have something to do with the photograph?" He looked toward the elevator, then toward the vehicle outside, then back at me. "I think," he said carefully, "that somebody was very surprised to see you tonight." The elevator opened again. This time Damien stepped out. His expression was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm people carried when they already knew something everyone else had just discovered. He looked directly at me. "Callie," he said, "we need to leave. Right now." The moment Damien spoke, the atmosphere changed again. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just enough for me to notice that every person around him immediately became more alert. "No," I said. The word escaped before I could stop it. Damien blinked once. "No. I am not getting into a car with a man I met an hour ago." Victor looked away. Apparently, he found the ceiling fascinating. Damien exhaled slowly. "Callie, no, listen to me. You keep saying that, but you have not explained anything." Rain tapped softly against the glass behind us. The black SUV remained parked across the street, motionless, waiting. The 2 men near the entrance remained there too. Every instinct inside me screamed that something was wrong. Yet another instinct refused to trust Damien simply because he looked concerned. "I deserve answers," I said. "You do. Then start talking." Damien glanced toward the street. His jaw tightened. For the first time all evening, he looked frustrated. Not angry. Frustrated. Like time was slipping away faster than he wanted. The woman in that photograph disappeared 20 years ago. I folded my arms. And tonight was the first time I have ever seen another face that looked like hers. My stomach twisted. That still does not explain why I need an escort. Because someone else recognized you. A chill ran through me. Who? I do not know yet. That is not reassuring. It is honest. We stood there in silence. Honest. The answer surprised me. Most powerful people I had met preferred certainty. Damien seemed more interested in facts, even when the facts were uncomfortable. "Callie," he said quietly, "do your adoptive parents know anything about your biological family?" "Very little." "Have they ever mentioned Caroline Hayes?" "No." "Have you ever searched for your records?" "Several times." And everything was sealed. Damien looked disappointed by that answer. Not because he doubted me, because he had hoped for something useful. Another vibration buzzed against my palm. My phone. Every person near me noticed it instantly. I looked down. Unknown number again. This time the message remained visible. Leave the hotel now. Do not trust him. My blood turned cold. Victor stepped closer. What is it? I showed him the screen. His expression hardened immediately. Damien read the message without changing expression. Somehow that frightened me more. You have received messages before? He asked. One. When? A few minutes ago. And you did not tell anyone? I thought I imagined it. Damien looked toward Victor. No words were exchanged. None were necessary. Something passed between them anyway. Years of trust condensed into a glance. Callie, Damien said carefully. Have you posted your location online tonight? No, tagged the Gala. No, sent photos. No, told friends where you were. Only Vanessa knew I accepted the shift. Victor frowned slightly. That makes this harder. Harder for what? I asked. Neither answered immediately. That silence was becoming a habit. I hated it. Outside, headlights suddenly flashed. The black SUV started moving. Slowly, deliberately. It rolled down the street before disappearing around the corner. Relief washed through me. It lasted 3 seconds. Then Victor checked his phone. There is another one. My stomach dropped. Another what? He turned the screen toward Damien. A security camera image filled the display. Another dark vehicle sat half a block away. Different location. Same behavior. Waiting. Watching. Damien looked at me. Now do you understand? I swallowed hard. For the first time that evening, I was starting to. Not completely, but enough. The photograph. The messages. The strange reactions. None of this felt random anymore. Suppose I leave with you, I said carefully. What happens then? Damien considered the question. You stay somewhere secure tonight. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we start finding answers. About Caroline? About you. Those 2 words landed harder than I expected. About you. Not about the photograph. Not about his mystery. About me. My entire life I had accepted missing pieces. Sealed records. Unknown names. Unanswered questions. Suddenly someone was offering a chance to uncover them. The possibility terrified me. So did the alternative. My phone vibrated again. Another unknown message. This one contained only 4 words. He found you first. I stared at the screen. Then I slowly looked up at Damien. For the first time all night, I nodded. Okay, I whispered. I am listening. The city looked different after midnight. Manhattan lost some of its noise. Some of its confidence. Rain painted silver lines across the windows as I followed Damien toward a private elevator. Nobody spoke. Victor walked ahead while 2 other men quietly positioned themselves near the entrance. The entire situation felt unreal. 2 hours earlier, I had been serving champagne. Now I was leaving with a man whose name appeared in newspapers and whispered conversations. The elevator doors opened. We stepped inside. Soft music played overhead. Nobody touched a button except Victor. The doors closed. For a moment, the outside world disappeared. I stared at my reflection in the polished steel walls. Tired eyes. Damp hair. Black server uniform. I looked exactly like the same person I had been that morning. Yet everything felt different. Where are we going? I finally asked. My residence, Damien replied. I looked at him immediately. Absolutely not. Victor sighed quietly. Damien looked almost amused. You agreed to listen. I agreed to leave the hotel. The location is secure. That does not make it less strange. Fair. The elevator continued upward. Damien slipped one hand into his coat pocket. You may leave tomorrow if you wish. That is supposed to make me feel better? It is the truth. Again, that word. Truth. He used it often. The strange part was that I believed him. The elevator opened onto a private floor. My breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the entire skyline. The East River shimmered beneath distant lights. The apartment felt more like a luxury hotel than a home. Warm lighting. Dark wood. Modern furniture. Nothing flashy. Nothing excessive. Somehow that surprised me most. Wealth usually wanted attention. This place felt quiet. Controlled. Intentional. You live here alone? I asked. Mostly. Victor headed toward another room. The others disappeared just as quickly. Within seconds, the enormous apartment felt strangely empty. Damien removed his jacket and placed it over a chair. You are hungry. That was not a question. No, and how would you know? You have been working since morning. I hated that he was right. My stomach chose that moment to betray me with a loud growl. Damien nodded once. Exactly. 20 minutes later, I sat at a kitchen island eating soup that appeared from nowhere. I was too hungry to ask questions. Damien sat across from me, holding a cup of coffee. Outside, rain continued sliding down the glass. Tell me about Caroline, I finally said. His eyes lifted. There is not much to tell. I do not believe that. 20 years ago, she saved my life. I froze. The answer was not what I expected. Saved your life? Yes. He stared into his coffee for a moment. I was 13. The room fell silent. What happened? I asked. Damien shook his head slightly. Another night. You trust me enough to bring me here, but not enough to answer questions. I trust timing. Frustrating man. Somehow he managed to sound calm while avoiding every useful detail. Did you know her well? I asked. Not well. Then why keep her photograph? Something changed in his expression. Something deeper. Older. Because some people change your life in a single day. His voice was quiet. And then disappear. I looked away first. Not because I felt uncomfortable. Because I suddenly understood that this mystery meant more to him than I realized. A soft notification sounded from somewhere in the apartment. Damien immediately became alert. The shift was instant. Subtle, but unmistakable. He stood and crossed the room. A tablet screen glowed on the counter. Victor appeared moments later. Neither man noticed me watching. What is it? Damien asked. Victor's face had lost all color. We found something. Damien looked at the screen. His expression hardened. Where? Brooklyn. My pulse quickened. Brooklyn. My neighborhood. Victor swallowed carefully. Someone accessed sealed adoption records 3 days ago. Every muscle in my body went still. Damien slowly turned toward me. Callie, he said quietly. I think someone started looking for you before tonight. Some truths do not arrive gently. They crash into everything you thought you knew and leave nothing untouched. I stared at Damien across the kitchen island. The words echoed inside my head. Someone had accessed my adoption records. 3 days ago. Before the gala. Before the photograph. Before any of this began. That is impossible, I whispered. Victor looked uncomfortable. We verified it twice. How? I asked. Those files were sealed. They still are, Victor said. Officially. The room felt colder suddenly. Rain continued sliding down the massive windows. The city lights below looked distant now. Unreal. Like another world entirely. Damien remained standing beside the counter. Calm on the surface. Watching me carefully. Callie, he said quietly. Have you told anyone recently that you were adopted? No. No conversations with friends? No classmates? No co-workers? No, my voice became sharper with every answer. I barely know anything myself. Damien nodded slowly. That is what concerns me. I looked away. My thoughts were spinning too fast. Growing up, adoption had always felt like an unfinished sentence. My parents loved me. They gave me a home, a future, stability. But there had always been questions. Questions nobody could answer. Questions I eventually stopped asking. Now those questions were standing in the middle of the room, demanding attention. What exactly did they access? I asked. Victor tapped the tablet screen. Name changes. Medical records. Court documents. My stomach tightened. Did they find anything? Victor hesitated. Damien answered instead. Not enough. I frowned. What does that mean? Damien walked toward the windows. His reflection stretched across the glass. It means someone was looking for a specific person. Me? Possibly. Why? He turned back toward me. That is what we need to discover. I hated that answer. Mostly because it was probably true. The silence stretched. Then Damien reached into his jacket and removed the photograph again. He placed it carefully on the counter between us. This time I studied it longer. Caroline Hayes smiled into the camera. Young. Happy. Alive with possibility. The resemblance bothered me more each time I looked. Who took this picture? I asked. Damien sat down slowly. I did. That surprised me. You kept it for 20 years? Yes. Why? He looked at the photograph. Not at me. Because it was the last time I saw her. Something in his voice made me stop asking questions. For a moment. Then curiosity returned. What happened afterward? Damien remained silent. Victor quietly left the room. The gesture felt intentional. Like he already knew this conversation mattered. Finally Damien spoke. She disappeared. Just disappeared? One day she was there. The next day she was gone. Nobody found her. No, nobody looked. A faint smile appeared. Sad. Brief. Many people looked. I stared at him. The pieces still did not fit. You said she saved your life. She did. And then vanished? Yes. That sounds impossible. Most important things do. His answer lingered in the air between us. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere over the river. Soft and distant. The storm was moving closer. My phone rested beside my bowl. Silent for the first time in hours. I should have felt relieved. Instead, the silence felt wrong. Almost expectant. Then the screen lit up. No vibration. No sound. Just light. A new message appeared. Unknown sender. 3 words. Ask about June. My blood turned cold instantly. I stared at the screen. Damien noticed the change in my expression. What happened? Without speaking, I handed him the phone. His eyes scanned the message. For the first time since I met him, all color drained from his face. He looked up immediately. Who sent this? I do not know. Damien stood so quickly the chair moved backward. Victor. The name echoed through the apartment. Seconds later, Victor appeared. Damien showed him the screen. Victor's expression hardened instantly. That is not possible, he said. I looked between them. What is June? Neither man answered. Which was answer enough. Because suddenly I knew. Whatever happened in June 20 years ago was the secret connecting Caroline Hayes, my adoption records, and the reason someone had started searching for me before I even knew they existed. The message stayed on the screen long after the light faded. Ask about June. 3 simple words. 3 words that changed the atmosphere inside the apartment completely. Victor stared at the phone. Damien stared at Victor. Neither looked surprised that the message existed. They looked surprised that someone else knew. That realization unsettled me more than anything. Tell me what June means, I said. Damien remained silent. You said you wanted honesty. Still silence. Damien. He finally looked at me. The hesitation in his eyes lasted only a second. Then it disappeared. June was the month Caroline vanished. The room became very quiet. Rain continued tapping against the glass. Somewhere below, a siren echoed through the city. That cannot be all of it, I said. It is not. Damien walked toward the windows again. His reflection stretched across the dark glass. 20 years ago, there was an accident. My pulse quickened. What kind of accident? One that should have taken my life. I remembered his words from earlier. Caroline saved me. Suddenly, those words felt heavier. More real. She saved you during that accident? He nodded. Yes. And then disappeared weeks later? Days later. I stared at him. You never found out why? No, his voice remained calm, but something deeper moved beneath it. Grief. Not fresh grief. Old grief. The kind that settles into a person and becomes part of who they are. Victor stepped closer. There is something else. Damien looked at him immediately. What? Victor hesitated. The access request on the adoption records originated from Brooklyn. My stomach tightened. Brooklyn is huge. Not this part. He tapped the screen again. A map appeared. My breath caught instantly. The highlighted location sat less than 3 blocks from my apartment. That has to be a coincidence, I whispered. Nobody answered. Because nobody believed it. I looked down at the photograph again. Caroline Hayes smiled back at me from 20 years ago. The resemblance no longer felt strange. It felt impossible. What if she is not connected to me at all? I asked quietly. What if we are all chasing the wrong explanation? Damien turned toward me. I spent 20 years looking at that photograph. His voice remained steady. I know every detail of her face. I swallowed hard. And when I saw you tonight, I thought I was imagining things. The honesty in that answer made it difficult to look away. Callie, he continued. The resemblance is not small. You think she was my mother. I think it is possible. My chest tightened. Possible. Not certain. Somehow that felt worse. Certainty creates answers. Possibility creates hope. Hope is far more dangerous. Another silence settled between us. Then Victor's phone rang. He answered immediately. His expression changed after only a few seconds. Are you sure? He asked. He listened, then ended the call. What happened? Damien asked. Victor looked directly at me. Someone was inside your apartment tonight. Every sound in the room disappeared. I stared at him, certain I had heard wrong. What? Your building manager reported a forced lock. My hands became cold. My apartment? Yes. Was anything taken? Victor shook his head slowly. According to the initial report, no. Damien frowned. Then why enter? Nobody answered. Because the answer was obvious. They were not looking for something. They were looking for someone. Me. The realization settled heavily in my chest. For the first time since arriving here, the situation stopped feeling like a mystery. It started feeling personal. Very personal. Damien crossed the room and picked up the photograph. He studied it carefully. Then he looked at me. Tomorrow morning, he said, we are going to Brooklyn. Why? Because if someone searched your records and entered your apartment, they already know something. My pulse quickened. Something about Caroline? Maybe. His eyes narrowed slightly. Or something about June. Outside, lightning briefly illuminated the skyline. For a fraction of a second, the entire city appeared in silver light. Then darkness returned. My phone vibrated one more time. A new message appeared. No number. No name. Just a photograph. An old photograph. Faded and grainy. My breath stopped. Because standing beside Caroline Hayes was a little girl with blonde hair and green eyes. A little girl who looked exactly like me. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The photograph filled my screen. Caroline Hayes stood beneath a bright summer sky, smiling at the camera. Beside her stood a little girl. 4 years old, maybe 5. Blonde hair. Green eyes. A small white dress. The child looked exactly like me. Not similar. Not close. Me. My hands started shaking. Callie. Damien's voice sounded distant. I could not answer. I simply handed him the phone. He stared at the image. Then he closed his eyes briefly. Victor stepped forward and looked over his shoulder. Neither man spoke. That silence confirmed everything. They saw it too. Where did this come from? I finally whispered. Victor immediately reached for his tablet. We are tracing it now. Can you? Usually. The fact that he said usually instead of yes did not help. Damien remained focused on the photograph. Zoom in. I frowned. What? The background. I enlarged the image. Trees. Sunlight. A wooden bench. Nothing unusual. Then I noticed something. A date. Barely visible in the corner of the photograph. June 18th. 20 years ago. My stomach tightened. June again. The message. The disappearance. The accident. Everything pointed back to the same month. That cannot be a coincidence, I said. No. Damien replied quietly. It is not. Rain continued against the glass while the apartment seemed to shrink around us. Every answer created 3 new questions. If Caroline was my mother, why was I adopted? Why were my records sealed? Why was someone searching for me now? And why did Damien seem connected to all of it? Victor's tablet suddenly chimed. He looked down immediately. I have something. Damien turned. Already. The image was routed through multiple servers. Victor frowned. But one signal remained local. Local where? Victor hesitated. Then he looked directly at Damien. Inside your organization. The room went silent. My pulse accelerated instantly. Damien did not move. He did not speak. Yet something changed in his expression. A small crack appeared in the perfect control he carried everywhere. Explain, he said. Victor swallowed carefully. The message originated from a secured network. Which one? One of ours. The words landed like stones. I looked between them. Someone inside your organization sent the photograph? Victor nodded slowly. It appears that way. Damien's jaw tightened. Who has access? Very few people. Names. Victor listed several. I recognized none of them. Damien listened carefully. Not reacting. Not interrupting. Somehow that made the situation feel even more serious. Could they have accessed the adoption records too? I asked. Victor looked at me. Possibly. A cold feeling settled inside my chest. The danger no longer felt distant. It no longer felt anonymous. It had a direction now. Someone close to Damien knew about Caroline. Someone close to Damien knew about me. Why would they send us the photograph? I asked. Damien answered this time. Because they want us to find something. Or they want us to find it before someone else does. Neither possibility sounded comforting. Victor's phone rang again. He answered immediately. His expression darkened. Understood. He ended the call and looked at Damien. The building manager sent photos from Callie's apartment. My stomach tightened instantly. Photos. Victor turned the screen toward us. I recognized my apartment immediately. My small living room. My bookshelf. My kitchen table. Everything appeared normal at first glance. Then I noticed it. One drawer had been opened. Just one. The drawer beside my bed. The drawer where I kept the only adoption document I owned. My birth certificate copy. No, I whispered. Damien looked at the image carefully. What was inside? A certificate. Only that. Yes. And now? I stared at the photograph. The drawer was empty. My chest felt hollow. It is gone. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. Whoever entered my apartment had not been searching randomly. They knew exactly what they wanted. My phone vibrated again. Another unknown message. I opened it slowly. 4 words appeared on the screen. Check the back. Confused, I looked at the photograph again. Then I flipped the image. My breath stopped. Written in faded blue ink on the back were 6 words. If anything happens, find Damien. The words on the back of the photograph felt heavier than the photograph itself. If anything happens, find Damien. I read them again. Then again, each time hoping they would somehow change. They did not. Damien stared at the image in complete silence. His face revealed nothing. That worried me, because every time he had looked surprised tonight, I had learned something important. Now he looked like a man remembering something he wished he could forget. She wrote that. I asked quietly. Damien nodded once. It is her handwriting. You are sure? Completely. My pulse quickened. Then she knew you. Yes. Better than you admitted. The room fell silent. Outside, the storm continued rolling across Manhattan. Inside, another storm was building. One made of secrets. Damien carefully placed the photograph on the counter. His fingers lingered against the edge. There are things I should have told you earlier. I folded my arms. That is becoming a theme tonight. A faint smile touched his face. It vanished quickly. 20 years ago, I was not Damien Moretti. I frowned. What does that mean? It means I was a frightened 13-year-old boy who had lost almost everything. His voice carried no self-pity, only truth. Caroline found me after the accident and helped you. She protected me. The word landed softly between us. Protected. Not saved. Not rescued. Protected. From what? I asked. Damien looked away briefly. From people asking dangerous questions. My chest tightened. Dangerous questions. The same thing seemed to be happening now. She knew my family, he continued. She knew things she should not have known. About June. He nodded. About June. Victor remained near the windows, quietly listening. His attention never fully left the security feeds glowing on his tablet. What happened in June? I asked again. Damien exhaled slowly. A file disappeared. I blinked. A file. Not an ordinary one. What kind? The kind powerful people would spend decades searching for. Every answer somehow created 10 new mysteries. And Caroline had it? No, then who did? Damien's eyes met mine. That was always the question. My stomach twisted. You think my mother knew where it was? I think she knew more than anyone realized. The room became quiet again. Then another thought hit me. Wait. Damien looked up. If she wrote that message on the photograph 20 years ago, she expected something to happen. Yes. She expected someone to come looking. Yes. And she wanted that person to find you. Damien nodded. I stared at him. Why? For the first time all evening, uncertainty appeared in his eyes. I never knew. A notification sounded from Victor's tablet. He checked it immediately. His expression changed. Damien. What? We found another record. Both of us turned toward him. Victor enlarged a document on the screen. The adoption request. My heart skipped. My adoption request? Yes. He swallowed carefully. There is a witness signature. Damien stepped closer. Who signed it? Victor zoomed in. The image sharpened. My pulse pounded in my ears. Then the name became clear. Every bit of color drained from Damien's face. That is impossible, he whispered. I grabbed the tablet and looked for myself. The signature at the bottom of the page belonged to only one person. Caroline Hayes. Underneath her name was another signature. Smaller. Almost hidden. A witness. My breath caught. Because I recognized that name immediately. Damien Moretti. The world seemed to tilt beneath me. I stared at the signature again. Damien Moretti. The ink had faded with time, but the name remained unmistakable. 20 years ago, before the empire, before the wealth, before the man standing across from me became someone the entire city recognized. He had signed my adoption papers. That is not possible, I whispered. Damien looked just as stunned. I remember the day. His voice sounded distant, like he was speaking from somewhere far away. But I did not remember this. Victor studied the document again. The signature has already been authenticated. Damien ran a hand across his face. For the first time since I met him, he looked exhausted. I was 13. Why would a 13-year-old sign adoption papers? I asked. He stared at the screen. Because Caroline asked me to. The answer settled heavily between us. You did not ask why. I did. His eyes lifted toward me. She told me a child needed a future. My throat tightened. Me? He nodded slowly. You. Rain continued falling outside. The city lights blurred against the glass. Somewhere below, traffic moved through wet streets. Normal lives. Ordinary lives. Mine no longer felt ordinary at all. You knew about me, I said quietly. Not exactly. You signed the papers. I never saw your face. He pointed toward the document. The file was sealed immediately. I looked at the signature again. Every answer seemed to reveal a deeper question. Why seal everything? Victor crossed his arms. Because someone wanted the records hidden. Who? I asked. Neither man answered. That silence told me more than words could. They suspected someone. They just did not know who. Damien reached for the photograph and turned it over again. His eyes lingered on Caroline's handwriting. If anything happens, find Damien. She knew, he said quietly. Knew what? I asked. That something was coming. His voice grew softer. And she trusted me to protect you. The realization hit me harder than I expected. A woman I could barely remember had made a decision 20 years ago. A decision that somehow reached across 2 decades and landed here. Tonight. In this apartment. With this man. My phone suddenly vibrated. Every head turned immediately. I looked down. Another unknown message. No words this time. Just an address. Brooklyn. My heart skipped. I know that place. Damien looked at me. How? Because it is near my elementary school. Victor frowned. What is there now? Nothing. I stared at the address. At least I think so. Damien stepped closer. Think carefully. I closed my eyes. Memories surfaced slowly. A playground. A church. A narrow street lined with old brownstones. Then something else. A small bookstore. Long closed. There used to be a bookstore there. Victor immediately started searching. Seconds later, he found something. The building still exists. Damien looked at the screen. Who owns it? Victor's expression changed. Nobody. Explain. The property has been abandoned for 19 years. A chill ran through me. 19 years. Almost exactly the same amount of time since my adoption. Damien looked toward the windows. Thinking. Calculating. Remembering. We go there tomorrow. Why? I asked. He met my gaze. Because whoever sent this message wanted us to find it. Or wanted us trapped. Victor added quietly. Neither possibility sounded appealing. Another notification appeared on Victor's tablet. He checked it immediately. His face lost color. Damien. What now? Victor slowly turned the screen around. Security footage filled the display. Grainy. Black and white. Recorded only minutes earlier. The lobby of this building. A woman stood near the entrance. Blonde hair. Green eyes. Similar age to me. For one impossible second, I thought I was looking at my own reflection. Then the woman stepped closer to the camera. My breath stopped. Because she was not me. And according to the timestamp, she had been asking for Damien by name. For several seconds nobody spoke. The security footage continued playing on the screen. The woman stood beneath the lobby lights, calm and patient. She looked so much like me that it felt unsettling. Not identical, but close enough that strangers might hesitate. Close enough that my heart refused to slow down. Who is she? I whispered. Victor shook his head. We do not know. Damien stared at the screen. Something had changed in his expression. Not shock. Recognition. You have seen her before, I said. His eyes shifted toward me. Maybe. There is something familiar. The answer only created more questions. Victor enlarged the footage. The woman stepped closer to the desk. She handed the concierge a small envelope. Then she turned and left. No panic. No urgency. Just confidence. The kind of confidence that comes from knowing exactly what you are doing. Where is the envelope now? Damien asked. Security collected it. Victor checked another message. They are bringing it upstairs. My pulse quickened immediately. Every mystery tonight seemed connected by invisible threads. Caroline. June. The photograph. My adoption records. Now this woman. Minutes later, the elevator doors opened. A security supervisor entered carrying a sealed evidence bag. Inside sat a plain white envelope. Nothing else. Damien accepted it personally. The room became silent again. Carefully, he opened the flap. A single folded page rested inside. He unfolded it slowly, then stopped reading. Every bit of color left his face. What is it? I asked. He handed me the paper. My hands trembled as I read the message. If you want the truth about Caroline Hayes, Come to the bookstore at 9 o'clock. Come alone. Underneath the message was a signature. Not a name, just one word. June. A chill moved through my entire body. The same word. Again and again. Like a shadow following us through every answer. This is a trap, Victor said immediately. Probably. Damien's voice remained calm. Then we are not going. Victor looked relieved. Good. We are sending a team. Victor nodded. Agreed. I looked at the message again. Something bothered me. Something small. Wait. Both men turned toward me. What? Damien asked. I pointed toward the handwriting. This note. What about it? I have seen this before. The room froze. Where? Victor asked. I closed my eyes. Searching through memories. Class notes. Forms. Receipts. Then it hit me. My breath caught. My adoption certificate. Damien stared at me. You are sure? The handwriting. My voice shook. The capital letters. The way the numbers curve. I looked up slowly. It matches the signature on my adoption papers. Silence crashed over the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because if I was right, then the person sending messages tonight was not just connected to Caroline. They were connected to the adoption itself. 20 years ago. The same secret. The same trail. The same missing answers. Damien took the note back and compared it against the digital document. His expression hardened immediately. She is right. Victor stared at the screen. That is impossible. No, Damien said quietly. It means whoever contacted us was there from the beginning. My pulse pounded in my ears. 20 years. Someone had stayed hidden for 20 years. Then chosen tonight to step into the light. Outside, the storm finally began to fade. The rain slowed. The city lights sharpened beneath the dark sky. Damien folded the note carefully. His eyes never left the signature. Tomorrow changes everything, he said. I looked toward the windows. Toward the sleeping city. Toward the bookstore waiting in Brooklyn. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized something terrifying. We were no longer searching for the truth. The truth had started searching for us. The next morning arrived wrapped in gray clouds and unanswered questions. Brooklyn looked different through the tinted windows of Damien's car. Familiar streets suddenly felt unfamiliar. Every corner seemed connected to a secret I had never known existed. Nobody spoke much during the drive. Victor reviewed information on his tablet. Damien stared out the window. I watched the city pass by and wondered how many times I had unknowingly crossed paths with my own history. The bookstore appeared exactly where I remembered. Old brick. Dusty windows. A faded sign hanging above the entrance. It looked abandoned. Forgotten. Yet somehow it had become the center of everything. Damien stepped out first. I followed. The morning air smelled like rain and old pavement. The door opened with a soft creak. Sunlight filtered through dusty shelves. Thousands of books sat untouched. Time seemed frozen inside. Then we heard a voice. You came. My heart stopped. The blonde woman from the security footage stepped from behind a shelf. Up close, the resemblance was even stronger. Similar eyes. Similar smile. Similar features. But she was older than me by several years. Maybe 30. Maybe a little more. Damien stared at her. Who are you? The woman smiled sadly. My name is Claire Hayes. Hayes. My pulse accelerated instantly. You are related to Caroline. Claire nodded. She was my sister. The room became silent. 20 years of questions suddenly stood a few feet away. Damien took a slow breath. Where is Caroline? Claire's eyes filled with emotion. Gone. The answer landed softly. No drama. No mystery. Just sadness. She passed away 19 years ago. My chest tightened. I never knew her. Yet grief arrived anyway. Claire looked directly at me. She loved you very much. Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. She was my mother. Claire nodded. Yes. The word changed everything. Not because it surprised me. Because hearing it out loud made it real. Claire reached into her bag and removed a small wooden box. The edges were worn smooth with age. She handed it to me. She left this for you. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside sat photographs. Letters. A small silver necklace. And one sealed envelope. My name was written across the front. Callie. Tears blurred my vision. She wrote this. Claire smiled. A month before she died. I carefully opened the letter. The paper smelled faintly of age. My eyes moved across the words. My dearest Callie, if you are reading this, then you found the truth. The world may tell you that blood creates family. It does not. Love does. I gave you away because I wanted you safe. Not because I wanted you gone. Every day I hoped you would have the future I could not give you. If you found Damien, then he kept his promise. Trust him. He was the bravest boy I ever knew. My vision blurred completely. I lowered the letter. Damien stood motionless. For the first time since meeting him, I saw tears in his eyes. Not many. Just enough. Claire looked toward him. She trusted you more than anyone. Damien nodded slowly. I know. A long silence followed. Then Claire smiled gently. There is one more thing. She pointed toward the bottom of the letter. I looked again. A final sentence waited there. Simple. Honest. Beautiful. Some people enter your life for a moment and change your entire future. Hold on to them. I folded the letter carefully. Then I looked at Damien, the man who had unknowingly signed my adoption papers, the man my mother trusted, the man who had spent 20 years searching for answers. Our eyes met. No words were needed, because sometimes fate does not arrive as a miracle. Sometimes it arrives as a stranger across a crowded room and quietly changes everything.